I met my first African Americans when I was 11 years old. When I met them, I felt fear.
They never told me I was brown or any other colored or that I was any different from anybody else. My grandmothers were biracial. My grandmother was always telling me, just remember, God created all colors.
On a winter afternoon in Hermann, Missouri, a group of people gathered to share stories. Black people and white people sharing their memories of growing up in small Missouri towns in a time of strict segregation. In some cases, the segregation continued even after civil rights laws were enacted. The discussion was honest and candid, and no one shied away from difficult topics.
I was the first Black person to walk through the Davidson's Cafe and order me a cheeseburger and fries and not have to go in the back. In Montgomery City, if you want to go to the show, you had to go upstairs and sit.
Going upstairs, it was automatic, you know what I'm saying? So we didn't think, well, we'd rather sit downstairs. When I got to St. Louis, things like that would not have been tolerated. But that's all we knew, and just a handful of us, we wasn't going to raise any cane. That's what my grandfather calls it.
Well, excuse me. We decided to go to the movies. Since civil rights laws were signed and everything, why shouldn't I be able to pay my 50 cents and sit on the first floor like everybody else? Sat on the first floor, yay, first time ever. Niggers can't sit here.
I grew up in an entirely segregated atmosphere.
Even those who came only to listen found themselves ready to share.
I did not see an African American until I was 7 or 8 years old, and I went to Brownie Day Camp, and I made friends with a little girl. I said, "Mother, I have a new friend. I made a new friend. Can she come over and play with me?" And I said, "But tell me something, Mother, I don't understand." She didn't look like me exactly. Her skin was dark. And my mother said, the upshot of it was, no, I couldn't invite my friend over to play with me.
But to say I'm going to be committed to this?
This powerful discussion didn't happen by chance. Cecelia Nadal extended an open invitation to African Americans and to whites of German heritage to share their experiences. She is a sociologist and playwright who is passionate about cross-cultural engagement. She became fascinated with a little-known slice of Missouri history. German immigrants who settled in Missouri were staunch abolitionists. The small town of Hermann, Missouri became ground zero for an anti-slavery movement.
These people came speaking German, never being in America before, having to find a place in the Wild West to live, where they're going to work, build houses, whatever they look like. Their challenges of acclimating to a new country were huge then. And yet, when it came to what position they would have on slavery, this group, particularly in Missouri, really had very firm notions about what democracy should look like, and whether they knew a Black person or not, or a slave, we're just not going to come to a country and let that be, because we've come from a place that had terrible oppression. So we would be hypocrites if we did not stand up for what democracy should be.
The story inspired Cecelia to write a play that was performed in Hermann and in St. Louis.
Where would they go?
Called An Amazing Story, the drama portrays how German immigrants fought against slavery.
We are all Americans now, and the ideal of democracy belongs to all the many people of this great land.
One key figure in the history is Arnold Krickle. He was a federal judge who ran an anti-slavery newspaper. In 1854, he spearheaded the formation of Lincoln University in Jefferson City, the nation's first degree-granting historically Black college. He also represented freedmen in disputes with employers. It was up to Cecelia as the playwright to imagine the conversations these real characters might have had.
The way I see it, we're all American. This is the only country I've ever known.
The play was the icebreaker, if you will, and only the beginning. Conversations like this continued the dialogue.
You know, Dad was the first tavern owner to ever serve a black man at the bar. He took a lot of static over that, a lot of static, and he lost some customers.
My family moved here in 1908. My family employed a lot of African American people. Henry Ellis worked for us on one of our farms across the river, and great family.
Since the discussion, Hermann held its first ever Black History Month celebration. And some participants are attempting to find out if sundown laws have been repealed. Those laws once prohibited blacks from being out after dark. Building bridges and having face-to-face conversations, however difficult, are paths to healing and understanding, according to Cecelia.
The German immigrant abolitionist story was one that was extremely important for where we are today in America. Why? Because these were people who did not know the people they were fighting for, but on principle, they said, we're going to do something about it. They are an incredible example of what it means to be American, and that is to stand up for what we believe in.
And before I be a slave,